My name is Taramolecoid, and I built a mega base in 12 hours. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Why? How? Well, let me tell you a little story. When we were on Season 1 of the Molecoid SMP, Mojang announced that the World Generation update for 1.18 would be very delayed. Given this news, I made the decision to keep the same server until the update, which was at least a few months out. So what did I do at that time? I built my first mega build. No plans, only vibes. I started from the bottom up with a redstone auto sorter and then doing the inner tower. My sister helped with the library and I was able to get some of the shapes down for the other parts, and then I just stalled. For months, no progress was made. I had no idea somewhere to go and no plans. The base sat uncompleted. As time crunched on, building eventually seemed more fun than searching for all the 128 strongholds. That's a whole other story. And the build was finally finished. The interior was left for last, and I did some mass terraforming on the outside areas. For days we were covering the desert with grass. After all was said and done, I was very proud of this build. It took months, and while it could have had some more thoughtful planning, it was my first huge build, and was lovingly called the lag machine on the server. Now, flash forward to Molecoid SMP Season 2. I had plans for a mega build, but I ended up ditching them. I didn't feel passionate about the idea, and it wasn't planned out at all. I was worried I would fall into the same pit I had in Season 1 and leave an uncompleted project for a long time. But I still love building, and something inside me seemed to switch this week. I decided, hey, why don't I give a big building a try again? But I knew I should be smart about it. And then inspiration struck. As some of my Hermitcraft fans might know, Good Times with Scar is making a Disney World-esque build in Hermitcraft Season 9. In one of his latest videos, he asked people for suggestions on what he should add backstage to the build. And as a former Disney World cast member, I went down a rabbit hole and had to restrain myself from tweeting every single one of my backstage photos. But as I was having a little trip down memory lane, this photo caught my attention. This is the Wilderness Lodge at Disney World, and it cost $700 a night. Okay, Jesus. Well, obviously I could not afford to stay in this resort with Disney's $12 an hour, but what they did have was a free boat ride to Magic Kingdom. And I sure do love a free boat ride. So when we wanted to go to the park, we would often take the bus to Wilderness Lodge and then a boat to Magic Kingdom. I love this resort. The atmosphere is so nice, the setting being a rich person's glamping trip. Seeing this photo after 2 years brought all this back, and I knew I had to build it in Minecraft. So I sat down and I grinded for days. I ate, slept, and breathed this build. At night, I was sitting up thinking about this build. I would spend hours each day working on this. In between working my actual job, I would be building my little Minecraft base. And as I started this project, I realized that if I wanted to do this right, I should learn how to use World Edit. As a survival player mainly, World Edit has been something that's on my radar, but I never used it. A couple quick tutorials and a lot of trial and error later, this build was taking off thanks to the wonderful power of copy and paste. Because I was so inspired by this photo, which was taken technically in the back of the hotel, that's where I started. My palette consisted largely of stripped spruce, dark prismarine, stone brick, and warped fence. One of my mistakes in building often is thinking too much about texturing and adding too much noise. But with this build, I realized that I needed to stick to something consistent because the scale was so much larger and adding too much noise would just be confusing. Now, there's a reason that this is a time-lapse and not a tutorial. I actually did the math on this build when it was all said and done, and it's a lot of blocks. So if you're interested in recreating this, let me give you a little bit of scale. First, you will need 2,439 oak logs to turn into sticks. You will then need 5,156 warped stem. This warped stem will become 20,624 warped planks, 1,428 warped fence, 3,146 warped trapdoors, and 4,640 warped fence gates. Next, you will need a measly 611,678 spruce logs, also known as 176 double chests, or 354 shulker boxes. These spruce logs will then become 50,092 spruce planks, 4,288 spruce stairs, 2,160 spruce trapdoors, and 599,155 stripped spruce logs. Next, you're going to need 62,579 stone, which will then become 61,500 stone bricks and 1,079 stone brick walls. 3,287 iron ingots will become 224 iron trapdoors and 2,689 lanterns. You'll need 816 moss blocks, 734 flowering azalea, and 78 azalea. Next up, you're going to need 7,704 sand, which you will combine with 20,054 ink sacks to become 7,704 black stained glass, and then 8,624 black stained glass panes. 44 double chests of prismarine shards later, you will have 152,728 to combine with those ink sacks to make 19,091 dark prismarine. You will then make 3,438 dark prismarine slabs and 3,437 dark prismarine stairs. Some of these numbers aren't entirely accurate because they're not totally needed. There's certain items that aren't facing the exterior of the build and could be replaced with something disposable like leaves or grass, but for the most part, this is around the ballpark of numbers you would be looking at for this build. Now, if you've been keeping track of the math, that is a lot of materials. I was going to do the math on how long it would take to mine all of that stripped spruce logs with an efficiency 5 axe and haste, but then I decided it doesn't even matter. It's such an insane number that I don't even want to think about it. You would actually, in addition to mining all that, you would also need a squid farm, a prismarine farm, and as somebody who has drained an ocean monument before, I can confidently say that was one of the most annoying things I've ever done, and if you catch me doing that again, something is seriously wrong with me. So I don't recommend trying this in survival. Anyways, I think this was a really great exercise and I had a lot of fun building this. I think being passionate about what you're building and having a vision really helps. I could really feel each part of the build and understand what was going on there. It helped that this was an actual building that I could look up the floor plan for, that I could look up different angles of, and that I had personally seen in real life. And this title was not clickbait, it was not a lie. With the power of World Edit and a hyperfixation on this, I was able to do this in about 12 hours. If you're interested in doing a mega build, I really encourage finding your own style and how you best build in Minecraft. For me, I often struggle to come up with shapes and buildings directly from my brain, so using photos is a huge help here. The struggle here is there can be a lot of times when you want to default to looking at what other people have created in Minecraft, which can result in copying somebody's work. This build feels like 100% my work. Besides some circles and some roof references, none of this was used from anyone else's work, and I'm really proud of that. I imagine doing the inside of this build would take a long time, but that's not something I'm concerned with. The whole build is done, and that's enough for me. With my mega build in Season 1, decorating the inside was really nice. The thing with making a mega build in survival as opposed to creative is that you're living in the build in survival. There's things you want to put in there. Part of it might be a mob farm, part of it might be your storage system, which if you have this many materials has got to be huge. Part of it might be decorated. In Season 1 of the SMP, my mega build had things like specific spots for armor, specific spots for tools, a dungeon, it had multiple bedrooms. It had a huge auto sorter. It had a giant library that was used to film and for other projects. In this case, I imagine doing the inside would be a project in of itself. So as we jump into the final tour, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Building in Minecraft is something I'm super passionate about and super excited to share with you guys here on YouTube. If you like this kind of content, please let me know in the comments down below. This took a really long time and I would really appreciate some feedback on it. So, with all that said and done, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.